I'll start sharing the screen also. So in the previous class, we had, can anyone just summarize what we had discussed in the previous class?
Ma'am, ma'am, in the offline lecture, you told about keywords, identifiers.
Hmm?
Ma'am,
Okay, in the our previous online lecture,
ma'am, Python character set.
Python character set we had done long ago. I'm talking about online, the online class we have every TTS. So in the last online class for class 11th, what was it that I think last class was on Thursday, last Thursday. So what was the last
And
topic which we
actually,
discussed?
Ma'am, numeric literals.
Numeric literals. Okay, yes. So in numeric literals, I might have taught you integers, float,
Ma'am,
complex. Okay. Then we had seen the special literal none. This also I remember. And then there was collections. Did I teach you?
what, ma'am?
Boolean was there.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
One second, just we'll do a quick recap of the last week's class. We had seen numeric literals. In numeric literals, we had seen three types: integer, float, and complex. And we had seen a special literal none, and we had seen a literal boolean. And did I teach you this one, collections?
No, ma'am.
List, tuples, dictionary, do you remember? Yeah, I think I did not
Yes,
teach
ma'am.
this. What was
Ma'am,
it?
tuple was
Yes.
ma'am, tuple is a set where we
No,
cannot
I didn't
change the
ask you.
values.
Orijit, I didn't ask you the definition. What all things we taught so that I could start teaching from the next part. Okay.
Ma'am, you teach till tuples.
So I might have taught list also then. So list and tuples I might have taught you. So just a quick recap. Lists are collections. All these three are collections of various elements or various values. Those values could either be of the same type or they could be of the different type. For example, if I have a collection like this, so here you can see that all the values are of which type? Identical type, right? But if you create a list in this way, like record, just a second, student. So now over here, you can see some elements which are of string type. These are of type string. This is of which type? Integer. This value is of which type? Float. So a list can store values of the identical type also and the non-identical type also. And every item is ordered. That is, if you have a list in this way, every item will be ordered just like strings. So it will have positive as well as negative indices. Understood? So these are positive indices and these are what? Negative indices. The singular is what? Index, and the plural is what? Indices. You also say they are subscripts. Understood? So over here, the length of the list is determined by the number of items in the list. Again, please write this. length of list is determined by the number of items in the list. The same is with tuple also, and the same is with dictionary also. If the length of the list is, suppose the size of a list is 10, so you will have indexing from 0 to 9. Understood? Where 9 is the index of the last item in the list. Now more details we will be discussing it in the chapter for list. We have 3 dedicated chapters for list, tuples and dictionary. Here I am just making you familiar with this data type, right? Second is tuples. Tuples are also the same, only thing they are immutable. Now there is a concept in Python known as mutability and immutability, which is also a topic to be discussed later. Otherwise we'll go beyond the scope of this chapter, right? Mutability and immutability. When we start with the chapter data handling, we will be studying it in that chapter. So lists are mutable, whereas tuples are immutable. Lists are mutable and tuples are immutable. But both are ordered. Ordered collection of items. So now tuples, how they are represented. So if I take a tuple as numbers, tuples will be represented within round brackets. Okay. Lists were represented within square brackets, whereas tuples are represented within round brackets. Rest everything is the same. Here also we'll have ordinal numbers, that is subscripts for each of the items. Okay, we will have the negative indicing also. Positive as well as negative indices will have. Here also the size of your tuple will be equal to the total number of elements in the tuple. Okay. And next is dictionary. The dictionary comes under a category known as mapping. Please write it down somewhere. It is also known as mapping. And it stores values in this form, key value pairs. It stores data in the form of key value pairs. How? If I create a dictionary like telephone directory, right? I will start the dictionary with a curly brace, okay, and within this I will be having keys and values, keys and their values. So over here, suppose I am going to store, what does a telephone directory contain? Can anyone tell me? Yes.
My mobile numbers, address of the recipient, name of the recipient.
Okay, name of the recipient, mobile number, that is contact information is there. So we are going to create a simple directory over here, which will contain the name of the person. 1 second. Which will contain the name of the person and the phone number of the person. Okay. So suppose I have the first one as name. And let me have the phone number. Suppose anything I'm giving over here. Right now I'm taking very simple values 1, 2, 3. So you can see over here that it starts with a curly brace and ends with a curly brace. These curly brackets are known as curly braces. Okay, please note it down. We will be using curly brace term from now on, and ends with a closing curly brace. So here you can see Amit Raj. Now because Amit Raj is a string, hence it is included within pair of double quotes. This is the key followed by a colon. Okay, this symbol which is known as a colon, and this is the value for the key. We put a comma after this, that is, this is my first item. Okay, but here dictionary is something which is unordered. There is no order to the elements in the dictionary. If you have specified Amit Raj first, it is not necessary that when you display the dictionary, Amit Raj will be the first item over here, because it has nothing to do with the positions. It doesn't use anything like indices. Okay, because here values are, there is only one way of accessing values, that is through their keys. Okay, Seema Sharma is the second key and its value is this. Then this is S. Valen is the third key and its value is this. Likewise, you can have any number of elements in your dictionary. Okay, so it can also store any type of value. Only thing, it will be storing the values in the form of key value pairs. So this is known as mapping. Why? Because by accessing the key, I can access the value. How? If I write here directory and I write here Amit Raj. Okay, I have included this within what? Print. I want to print the value for Amit Raj, so I will get the answer as 123. Okay, so this is what? It is the key which I am using and this is the value which is being returned. Understood? So this is how dictionary works. So now, because we already have 3 dedicated chapters for lists, tuples and dictionaries, we will be revisiting them a lot later. Okay. Now we will move on to the next part. So we have completed with this with 3 tokens. What are they? Number 1, we saw what are keywords. Number 2, we saw what are identifiers, and number 3, we have studied literals and we have studied all the literals. Now maybe tomorrow you will be getting an offline lecture where you will be getting the description of all of them. Now I don't remember what was the last offline lecture which you get. What was the last offline lecture topic? Can anyone tell me? It was yesterday. What was the topic yesterday?
And token identifier and keywords.
Okay, tokens, that is identifiers and keywords, right? So the next one which you are going to get is a string literal offline lecture. So it would be going on in this way. You will have the same lecture in offline also and online also. So this will strengthen the concept. And first and after that, you will be getting the offline lecture for numeric literals, then special literal, none, boolean, collections, and so on. So today we are going to start with a new topic, that is operators. Please make a note down of these operators in your copy. We have these many operators. This is another type of token, the 4th type of token, that is operators. Why operators? Because having literals, keywords and identifiers is not sufficient. We need to perform some operations on them also, and for that we need operators. So we have these many categories: unary, binary, arithmetic, bitwise, shift, identity, relational, logical, assignment and membership operators, out of which we are going to first start with unary operators. So what are unary operators? Please write it while I am speaking. Unary operators are those operators which need only one operand. There are 2 things, students: operator and operand. What is operand? Operand is actually the value on which some operation would be performed. Got it? So there are some operators which need only one operand. What are they? Unary plus, unary minus, bitwise complement operator, and the logical negation, that is not operator. This is unary plus. Please note down all these things. Please note it down. This is unary minus. This is Vaibhav Shukla, please keep your mic switched off, okay? Bitwise operate, bitwise complement, and you have logical negation. These are the operators. Now to explain how these works. Now unary plus and unary minus means you take any literal or any identifier. Suppose I have a equals 5 and I write minus a. So what will it be? Its value will also become what? Minus 5. If I have a value b which has minus 13 and I write minus b, so it would be minus 13 which is equal to 13. Understood this? So this is how it is, and plus you do not need, because if even if you write plus b, it's the same as b. So we don't explicitly use the plus unary operator, but minus we definitely use. Okay. Next is bitwise complement. Now to understand this, we need to understand what are bits. Students, as you know that every letter, every digit, every special symbol which we have seen in the Python character set, it has, it can be converted into a binary number. Okay. In the chapter, you have a chapter data representation in your course. In this chapter, you will study in detail how to what are number systems and how to make conversions between number systems. Now to explain this bitwise complement operator, I'll have to teach you what number systems, right? And from number systems, I'll have to teach you what are conversion, how you make conversions between those number systems. So I'm not going to go deep into it. I will just explain it in a GIF. Now, bitwise complement operator are used for working on bits, that is binary digits. So if I have a number 5, I can convert this number 5 in the form of binary digits. How? Don't get confused, because I'm not going to tell you the method right now. When we study data representation chapter, at that time all this will be taught to you. Okay, so just sit back, relax, and just watch what I am doing. We are just going to divide the number by 2 and keep collecting its remainders, and then we will write all the remainders starting from the lowest one. So the binary representation of 5 is 101. Understood? Now bitwise complement means what? I can just converting 1 into 0 and 0 into 1. So over here, this 1 will be 0, this 0 will be 1, this 1 will be 0. Now what we are getting is the binary representation for the number 2. Okay, let's check this out. Let's verify this by opening our Python shell, and I'm going to just type here tilde sign 5, and okay, I'm getting something as, one second. There is something, just wait. Okay, it follows some other technique. Wait, should be this. Should not be the one. Okay, we'll take another value here, 12, and we will just use this complement 12. Okay, so we are getting minus 13. Let us see whether this applies or not. So we will first convert 12. So we get 1100. Now if we convert this, this will be 1, this will be 1, this will be 0, and this should be 0, but it is not changing the last bit. It is making it as, it's keeping it as 1 only. So there is a deep concept behind this, and that concept is not required over here right now, because there is a different way in which we represent negative numbers, okay, using complements, ones complements and twos complements. So I'm not going to go deep into that right now. So I just want to verify one thing. Please wait just a second. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to skip this for the time being, students, because there are certain discrepancies which I'm finding over here. Don't have an explanation for that right now, so I will get back to you on this one a little later. Okay, so now over here next we have the not, that is logical negation. Now what does not do? It will return the value in true or false. Okay, so now in not operator, if I write something like not 25, now this 25 is a non-zero value. It is not non-zero means something which is not equal to 0. Okay, now if it is not equal to 0 in Python, a non-zero value is considered to be true. So it means I'm writing here not true. And not true means I'm just going to, this not, this logical negation operator not, it just converts true into false and false into true, because it is having true in front of it, so it will convert this into false. Let us check this. Not 25, and it gives us false. Students, please remember that Python may give us unpredictable results many a times. Okay, that you already saw with the complement. Now until and unless you people are very thorough with what are complements and what are how decimal numbers are converted into binary numbers, you won't be able to understand the concept. So I am going to get back to you on the bitwise complement operator in the next class. Okay, although this chapter is only introduction, but still I am giving you the details of it. So we will get back to the bitwise complement a little later. Next is binary operators. Now what are binary operators? Unary operators accepted only one operand. So binary operators will accept how many operands? Can anyone just use your brains and tell me? Binary will be 2 operands. And it will be of this form: first operand, then the operator, and then the second operand. It will be of this type. Okay, A plus B, where A and B are what? They are operands, and plus is your operator. Got it? Now all these operators which you are seeing over here, that is arithmetic to membership, these all are binary operators. Got it? So that is the reason why we are going to check out all these one by one. So we will first start with arithmetic operators. Now what are arithmetic operators? All operators which you see: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, floor division, raised to the power, that is exponent, modulus, that is remainder. This is for addition, subtraction. Please write these down. Multiplication, division. This is a special type of division known as floor division. This is exponent. And this is modulus, also known as remainder. Please write these down in your copy, all the arithmetic operators, and then I will explain. And once you write down, just tell me.
Ma'am, read.
Okay. Addition, it should be clear. We are taking two values, a equals 5 and b equals 7. Okay, let us do it practically over here. Now I'm going to teach you a type of assignment. That is, instead of writing a equals 5 and then writing a equals b equals 7, in Python you can use multiple assignment like a comma b equals, you want to assign 5 to a, so 5 will come first, comma 7. So here what is going to happen in this statement? If I write a comma b equals 5 comma 7, 5 will get assigned to A and 7 will get assigned to B. How? In the memory, somewhere you might be having 5, somewhere you might be having 7. So A will be pointing to 5 and B would be pointing to 7. Okay, this is what is going to happen. If I print their values, print A comma B, you can see what is printed, 5 and 7. Now I'm going to print A plus B. What do we get? 12. I write A minus B. We get minus 2. A multiplied by B. So you will use asterisk. A divided by B. Now here what you are getting the answer in points, right? But if you write print A floor division B, then it returns the floor. Now math students might be knowing the answer. 0.712 something is the value. What should be the floor of this value? The floor will be 0. And what should be the
0.
ceiling of this value? It should be 1. Okay. So because the floor is 0 and we are using floor division, so it will return the floor value of this number. So here you can see what is the floor. It is 0. Next, a raised to the power b. So I am going to use a raised to the power b, which should be 5 raised to the power 7. Okay, and we are writing it this way. Two asterisk signs placed one after the other represents exponentiation. So this is the answer for a raised to the power b. Next is print a modulus b. Now what does modulus function do? It also divides a by b. That is, b divides a, but it will return what? Remainder. If I write 5 like this, 7, what is the remainder over here? 5. So it will return the remainder. Division and floor division will be returning the quotient, whereas remainder modulus operator will return the remainder. Okay. So if I write this, you are getting what? Remainder. Quickly write down the results of all these operations in your copy, students. Take any value other than 5 and 7 and write the results of all these operations in your copy. Now, instead of taking 5 and 7, I'm giving you the value. You can take the value 4 and 2. Write the result of all the operations. Now, we will break the explanation here, and now we will be seeing a little bit of a programming. Okay, so this has been too much of explanation. Let's jump to some programming over here. Okay, in your copies, you will write a question. Write a Python program in the script mode. Right now we were working in the interactive mode. So now we will work in the script mode to assign two values and print their sum, difference, product. Okay, and keep it simple. Print their sum, a simple program. Okay. Write a Python program in the script mode to assign two values and print their sum. So how to do this program? Everybody watch very carefully over here. First of all, now in this class, firstly, I'm going to tell you how to create a program in the script mode. So right now I'm using Python 3.8.3 shell, right?
Read this question.
Yes.
This is question.
This is the question. Write a Python program in the script mode to assign two values and print their sum. So let's see first. First we'll go to the file menu. Please watch this method very carefully, students. We'll go to the file menu and we will open new file. Alternatively, you can also press Ctrl N to open a new window. Okay. Now here you can see untitled, right? So firstly, I'm switching on the magnifier so that you can understand things. You can see untitled over here. We need to give a name to this. That is, we need to, our first step should be saving the program, because if you run the program also during execution also, Python is going to ask you to save the program. So we will go to file and you can press Ctrl S or you can click save. And now by default, it will always open this parent window of Python setup file. Okay, that is C drive, program files, Python 38 folder. But make sure, now this is the folder which contains all the necessary files to run Python on your program, on your computer. So if you overload this area with your programs, then this area might become cluttered. Okay, so better not to touch this area. Always choose a different location. Like I have already created a location in the D drive. So I'll be going to D drive and you can already see there is a folder named My Python Programs. So create a folder there and keep all your files in this folder. So I'm going to just type here sum of two numbers. Now you can see that how I'm naming the Python programs. I am naming them using camel case. First word has all letters small. Starting from the second word onwards, all the letters, all these words are capitalized. That is, first letter of these words are capital. So I'm using camel case to name the program. This is the correct way of naming your programs. Do not provide your name or surname to your programs, because what will happen when you create a lot many programs, it would be confusing to you itself. If you store, if you suppose you are using the series like this, Aditya, Aditya 1, Aditya 2, Aditya 3, and so on. So what will happen? Which program, what does Aditya 2 contain? Which program is there in Aditya 3? So that is the reason why it is always a good idea, a good programming practice to name your programs, name your identifiers according to the work they are doing. Okay, so because I'm going to create a program which will contain, which will be for displaying the sum of two numbers, so I'm using what? Sum of two numbers dot py as the name of the file. And this .py extension is mandatory, which says that it is a Python program. Okay, click on save, and here you get the name. So your program is saved. Now you need to write the code. So what you will be writing here? Okay. Assignment A equals A comma B equals, I'm just giving the values. Some larger value I'll be giving. Enter, and I'm going to print the sum. So print. Now one way is I take a third variable, I write A plus B over there, and then I print sum is what? C. So I've closed it. Now you can see that the moment you make any changes, you get an asterisk sign over here, which says that your program needs to be saved. If you try to run it, you will see what happens. It asks you to save before run. So click on OK, and you can see the sum is this. Now here, what is the problem? Every time you need to change the values, you have to make changes in the code. But what I want is that every time the program runs, it should ask the user for a value. And for that, we will be using something known as input function. Please note it down very carefully. We would be using the input function. Or sorry, I have used the wrong. It is all in small letters, the input function. Okay, so how does the input function work? Write its syntax. Syntax is the structure or the rule which I am going to tell you regarding using the input function. So here you have an identifier. On the left side equals input message or prompt. Now by default, what does input function do? It takes whatever input it takes from the user console, that is from the keyword, it recognizes that as a string. Even if you are reading something like 85.5, which is a float value, that would be converted into string. Understood that? So let us try with this, how to use the input function. So I've come back to the Python shell, and 1 second. Please take a look over here. So if I write something like my name equals input, enter your name. It's asking for a name. Name is usually what type? It is string type. So here my name would be what? It will be a string. That is okay. But if I'm asking for marks from the user, input, enter your marks. I give 85.5. And now if I type marks, so you can see that marks is included within single quotes, and hence if you try to perform any arithmetic calculations on it, like you write you want to add 5 more marks to this, you'll get an error message, can only concatenate, that is join string to string. You can only join a string to string. This 5 is what? What is the data type of 5? Which type of literal is it?
Integer.
Integer. Whereas marks is which type of literal?
String.
String. You cannot combine string with an integer. Understood? So that is why what was needed before you entered marks? Marks equals a conversion was needed to integer. So you had to use first integer, then input, enter your marks. Brackets. And here if you give 85.5, okay, it is giving me something. Yes. Can anyone read the error message and tell me what is the error over here? What went wrong in this statement?
Ma'am, you should. Ma'am, the colon is before that code.
No, my dear. The problem is the value. What have I written here? Int, right? And what type of value have I entered here?
Float.
Yes, it is float, right? So I should use what? I should enter if I am converting the value. If I am converting the value into integer, I should make sure that I enter only integer value. I'm coming to it. I know there is a question in your mind. I'm coming to that, right? So over here, if I enter 85, here it is okay. Now if I print it, you don't see any single quote. So that means it is an integer value. Now if you write marks equals marks plus 5, it runs perfectly and it adds 5 to the marks. Okay, so now we get marks as 90. Now you might be thinking that it is not necessary that every time the user enters an integer value, because it is quite possible that student might be getting the marks in points also. So for that purpose, you might think that, okay, I'll change it into float. Enter your marks. Enter your marks, and now I enter only 85, it accepts. Now when I print it, you will get 85.0. This floating point has been added to the number. You will be able to perform all arithmetic calculations perfectly on this. If I print it, you will get 90.0. Only difference was that, now what happened was, here in Python, because you had used float, right? You entered the mark which was an integer. But because the conversion was done to float, this integer was converted into float. How? Just by putting a point and adding a 0 after the point. Its meaning is what? It's the same. That is, its value is 85 only. Only thing, it is represented in a different way, in floating point numbers. So one way is this, and the other way is marks equals, instead of using int or float or complex, you can use a function called eval. Now what eval function does is, it automatically figures out the data type. If I give the value as 85, it will figure out that 85 is an integer value, so it will add that integer value to marks. It will not show it in points. But if you are entering any value in points like 85.5, so it will be evaluated as 85.5 only. Okay, so eval function automatically detects the type of the literal and accordingly it assigns it to the identifier. Understood? So we learned certain things, that is how to use the int function, how to use the float function. Let me first clarify this thing to you, how you do this. Identifier, equals conversion function. And within the conversion function, you have input. And within this, you have a message. Understood? As an example, marks equals int input, enter your marks, enter your marks, enter the marks, only marks, everything will work because anything which you write within this is just a prompt. It's just a message which will appear on the screen. Okay, so you can write anything over here. So you can just see how the brackets are closed. One bracket which contains what? This prompt, and the second bracket which contains input till the last. So this int is what it is enclosing this whole thing, that is input. Whatever first value would be asked from the user will enter the value. Okay, now how it changes, you can just see. Once the input function works, value has been inserted. Suppose the value inserted is 85. Now it is converted into integer, and now it is pointed by marks. Understood? In place of integer, you could have used float also, which will convert this into what? Floating point. And you could have also used eval function, which will automatically detect, it will auto detect the data type of the literal. Okay, being asked from the user, and accordingly it will assign it to the variable, that is to the identifier. Is this clear to everyone?
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, I have a doubt. Ma'am, can eval function accept a string value?
Yes, of course, but you don't need it. Why? Because input function automatically asks the value in string. It asks the value and it automatically converts the value into string. So you don't need eval function for string. जरूरत ही नहीं है, कर सकते हो, that's not a problem, not an issue, but you don't need that. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Because automatically input is by default converting everything into string. आप स्ट्रिंग एंटर करो तो भी वो उसको स्ट्रिंग ही डिटेक्ट करेगा, आप फ्लोट वैल्यू एंटर करो तो भी वो उसको स्ट्रिंग ही बनाएगा. Why we are using this int, float and eval? So that a value can be assigned according to the data type which it belongs to. Okay, if I am entering numbers, I need to perform arithmetic operations on the numbers, so it cannot be accepted as string. Got it? Let us apply this in our program. In sum of two numbers, we are going to ask the value of A and B from the user. Now, because we are going to calculate sum, so I have taken integer, or let me take it as eval, because I'll be able to take any type of value over here. So input, enter or enter first value. So on the screen, what will be displayed? Enter first value. For B, what should you display? Can anyone tell me the prompt message for B? Yes, come on, tell me. I'm just waiting over here. What prompt message would you like to give to B?
Input the second value.
Yes, enter the second value. Or I can simply write enter second value. Okay, now let us run the program. So what you are getting, it's asking enter first value. So any value I have entered. This is a float value. Second value is an integer, and the result is in float. Remember always, students, whenever you are working in the form, when you are working with expressions, if suppose the first one of the values is integer, one of the values is float, the result will be the higher data type, that is float. Understood that? One of the values is integers, one of the value, you can only add integer and float. Let us try doing it with complex. If I take a complex value, say D is a complex number. So I'm using a complex function over here to create a complex number. Let me print D, it is this. So I'm printing D plus 5. So yes, it is adding 5 to the what? It is adding 5 to the real part of the number. So you always see integer, float, complex. And if suppose you have complex also over here, what will happen? It will be the entire expression will be converted into complex. Always the lower data type will be converted into higher data type. Understood, everyone? If you have int float, it will be converted into float. If you have float complex, it will be converted into complex. If you have int float complex, it will be converted into complex only. But you cannot do this with strings and integers, strings and float, strings and complex. That will not work. Okay. So I hope this is clear to everyone. We stop here for today. Then we meet in the next class. I'm stopping the share.